Hello everyone and welcome to the next chapter. In this chapter, we're going to check all the secondary lines after the Nimzo-Indian, after the moves bishop b4. In this chapter, we are checking a3, we're checking g3, bishop d2, bishop d5, and queen b3. And don't worry, I didn't forget about the move knight f3. There we are playing b6, and it will be a transposition to the queen's Indian. So we are checking that in a chapter later. Don't worry about that. So let's start with these secondary lines. You're gonna see all of this is very simple, but it's important to know how to react, right? So for instance, we are going to start with the move queen b3, which makes a lot of sense, right? It's attacking b4 and it wants to take with the queen on c3 without wasting a tempo. And of course, we are not taking on c3, right? As we are not taking after queen c2 because of queen c3, so we are definitely not taking about after queen b3. So we are playing just c5, and the point is we are defending the bishop, we are striking the center, and also we want to develop now with knight c6. In case of knight f3, there is not so much you should know. Just don't take on d4. It's important we start with knight c6 here. Keep putting pressure on this guy on d4. And the point is very funny. So, of course, d5 looks like a natural way of playing here for white, but it's not a good move because we can take. And after cd5, we can play knight e5, and the pawn on d5 is now hanging if the queen moves to c2, for instance. So queen d1 will be kind of only move, and okay, we can just castle, and it's really bad for white because the development is just terrible, and even this pawn is quite weak. We can put some attack with b6, bishop b7, depends how white play. This is not a good line. Taking on c5 simply transpose to the main line, and playing e3 is just not so good. There is multiple good solutions here. I like this one because it's very easy. cd4, ed4, and d5 with a good control of the center, and the queen is, I don't know, kind of misplaced here on b3. It doesn't really make sense to place the queen there so early. So this is not the point. I mean, the point of the line is to play dc5 here, and now it's important we start with knight c6. Why do we start with knight c6? Because we actually might consider playing knight e4 in the next move, not like we might consider, we'll actually play knight e4 if white plays knight f3, which is the main point. Of course, in case of a3, we can just take now, then continue with d5, and playing queen b3, a3 for nothing. I mean, it's just wasting the development tempos. It's definitely not good, and black is already doing more than fine here. So knight f3 is the main point, and now this move is very strong. We play knight e4, and the point is, of course, we want to take here and then here, and we just want to ruin the white structure. So in order to avoid that, bishop d2 is mandatory for white, and now we simply want to gain the pair of bishop. We take on d2, knight d2, and we play bishop c5. Very easy, very simple. Now, in general, white will continue here with something like g3, and there is different ways you can approach this position, which are good. For instance, queen b6 good, just trying to trade queens and play a endgame with a pair of bishop. This is completely fine and completely good. You prefer in general to keep the queen on the board. It's also perfectly playable to do something like b6, bishop b7, short castle, and then sometimes we even play with f5, which makes sense because we gain some space and some activity. So this is also a possible plan, and it's completely fine also for black. So both ideas are possible. You choose which one suits you the most. So yeah, that's all you need to know after queen b3. Very simple, right? Just c5, knight c6, and these ideas with knight e4. Okay, let's go to the next move. Let's move to bishop to g5. After bishop g5, I really like, again, to play c5. There is a lot of tricks in this variation, so white should definitely be quite careful. After c5, the main move by far, I have to say, is d5. Which is kind of funny, right? Because if you think about it, there is this very random line which is called Snake Benoni, and you waste all these tempos. You play bishop d6, bishop c7, bishop a5, just to get here, and you are here for free. So it's definitely, I mean, if the other line is not terrible, which by the way is terrible, but this is not terrible because we didn't we didn't need to lose like 3 tempos to get here, right? But we'll leave d5 for the last line because it's the most important line. So let's start with a6. This is very simple. You take on c3, bc3, and you play h6. That's all you need to know, okay? If they take on f6, you take, and you're happy, you have a good development, you have a better structure, and what else do you want in life, right? And if something like bishop h4 to keep the pin, now this is very strong, queen a5. The point is that now bishop d2 is not a move. Now queen d2, knight e4 is coming, and something like queen c2 you can also take, and it's not possible to take because the pawn is pinned. So this is very bad. So yeah, not so much to know, right? And e3 is also a possibility, and now I love this because a lot of people actually make this mistake, and we have already a winning position after queen a5. The point is that now we have so many tactical ideas, right? We have, I mean, if take, we can just take, and we have intermediate check, so we just won a pawn. And in case of queen c2, we have this lovely tactical idea, knight e4. So we attack here, and we attack here, and white cannot take, I mean, they have to take, but they cannot really take, because we take on c3. So if you take, check, I grab the rook. If you move your king, you lose the castle, and you also lose your pawn. So this is very bad for white. E3 is just losing, and well, that's why we end up playing d5, which is the best move for white, which doesn't mean this line is good, because it's actually not so good. Now, we play d6, and as I said before, we have this kind of hyper-accelerated snake Benoni, let's call it like that. And after d6, our main ideas is basically kind of like in Benoni, right? So white would love to push e4, but it's not possible because we have a lot of pressure here in the center. Like e4, we can just play h6, and okay, if the bishop move, we can just continue with castle or just take on e4, depending of the move. So that's why f3 is one of the main moves here for white. And now, again, it's very easy to continue here for black. So we play h6. In general, I like to play h6 just to get rid out of the pin, and also the bishop has to decide where to go. Usually it will go to h4. Now you castle, e4, and you play rook e8. Very easy, very simple, okay? If they take on e6, you can just take on c3, ruin the structure, and then take here and put some pressure on c4. Otherwise, it's kind of hard for white to finish development, right? Because bishop d3, we have this very funny trick. You can take on d5, cd5, and this is very tactical and funny idea that sometimes also happens in the Benoni. We have this extremely strong idea. Knight takes e4, right? So you're attacking the bishop, so, well, you have to take the queen. And then after knight c3 is check, queen is hanging, bishop is hanging, and okay, everything is hanging. So it's very bad. So you cannot play bishop d3, so you might try, okay, I play bishop e2, but then this guy will never get out, right? You can play something like e6, continue development, and it's very hard for white to complete development, and it's very bad. And playing knight g2, again, is not so good because you can just take, play knight bd7, and again, it's very hard for white to complete development, and you just start pushing your pawns like you will do in a normal Benoni, and also these c4, 95 ideas, and in general, this is very good for black. So yeah, not the best line. And well, the main move here by far is to play e3 here with white. And now there is several different ways to play this position with the black pieces, but I personally love this one, and this is the reason why we are not taking on d5 so early, because sometimes we want to play with e5 and we want to close the center. But in order to do it well, we are going to take first. Okay, we take first. It's important. Like, if you play e5 in this kind of position and your opponent can still keep the structure fine, then I'm not such a fan of closing the position. I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, it's still playable, but it's not so great. So we take first, then take. Then we could play e5 first, but h6 is always a good move in this kind of situation. So, of course, giving the bishop is just terrible because, again, we have a good structure and it doesn't really make sense for white. All that white has is the pair of bishops, so giving it doesn't really help. So bishop h4 is the move here, and now we close the position with e5. In order to understand this position well, I'll explain a couple of things. So we don't castle here so early, and there is a very funny reason why we don't do it, and it's because sometimes we'll play king d7 or king d8. I like on d7 because it's even more radical, but which you can also do is through d8, and you can just long castle. But in general, our king will be safer here, and the reason for that is that the queen side is fully closed, and you will actually use your king side to attack. You will use your king side to gain space, like g5, knight h5, f5, and so on. So I'll show you a couple of lines on how this can continue. And also, queen c2, for instance, you can just play queen e7, then g5, here, start developing your pieces. So f3 is one of the main moves here for for white. There's more than one option here for black. I personally really like g5. For instance, bishop g3, boom, you go king d7, you go king c7, and then you keep developing your pieces. King is super safe on c7, and then you just go with the king side. Knight h5, f5, knight d7, and so on, okay? Bishop f2 is also normal, and now I really like to play e4, so we avoid e4 from white. You can also do that in the previous line, by the way, and it's also good. I mean, you have the decision between the both lines. Both are better for black, actually. And after something like 92, again, you can play queen e7, here, and just keep developing your pieces in natural squares, and the position is just better for black. So, yeah, bishop g5 is not a great line, I'm not gonna lie. Next, we're going to talk about bishop to d2. So, okay, bishop d2 can actually transpose to the e3 line. I mean, if we play short castle here, if white plays e3, it transposes, but many people play a3 here, and it's kind of a bit more boring. So I prefer to play c5 here directly, and I also like the fact that we are playing c5 against so many secondary lines that I also believe it makes it somehow easier to remember, and I like that. And I always try to make courses also easy to remember, which not so many different plans. So after c5, again, different reactions that white can try, right? They can take on c5. In this case, you can just take, because to be honest, the bishop on d2 was only there to be able to retake on c3. So yeah, now bishop d2 doesn't really make sense, and we just play castle, knight c6, d5, and we get a good position where the bishop is just not really well placed on d2. So yeah, dc5 is not a great idea. Now some people play like a3, and now we take bishop c3, and I hope you already know the move here for black, because we already seen this, okay? When we take on c3 and our opponent takes with a bishop, we in general want to play knight e4 really quickly, so we make sure we can recover that bishop, because, okay, depending on the position, it's not so important to recover the bishop, but if you don't have this kind of funny setup with f5, castle, here, and this kind of compensation, dynamical compensation, then you probably want to take the bishop, okay? And that's one of these, this is one of those cases. So after knight e4, of course, we want to take on c3, especially if our opponent is taking with the pawn, so in general, they will try to defend this. Rook c1 is very common, and now we have a lovely tactical positional idea. You will understand now why I call it tactical positional, that I really love, and it's really one of my favorite things of this line. We play queen h4, very aggressive. We want to mate. So g3 now is the best move, of course, for white, and now is you will understand why I call it tactical positional. So we take on c3. So okay, if they take the queen, we take the queen, and of course our structure will be better than white's structure. If you take with the rook, then I can just take the pawn, and it's a pawn up. And if you take the pawn, then I just go back. Just very chill, we go back. But we managed what we wanted. We managed to get white to play with a bad structure. So we use tactics to get a positional advantage, which is very funny. So yeah, that's all you need to know. So rook c1 is not a good move. And queen c2 is a better version. And the same, sadly, doesn't really work here, because after g3, there is no queen to take, so you will be surprised after gh4 with really terrible news. Don't do this. And after queen c2, we actually are going to take on c3, queen c3, but we again are going to use some tactical ideas, and we are playing queen f6 very quickly, again with a positional idea, right? So if they take on c5, we take, and knight e6. We recover here on c5, and the structure for white is just terrible. So this is very bad. That's why white is playing with e3 here. And now we keep putting pressure. Knight c6, trying to get the pawn. So you might be thinking, but now after dc5, I'm not taking the pawn with knight a6 and so on. You will be kind of right, but not really right. Because after bc3, the best move is knight b8 to play knight e6 and knight c5. And I know this is a much better, a much worse version than before. I get it. Before it was almost +2. Now it's just 0.6 for black. So don't worry. It's still very nice for black, right? This is just a really good endgame. You just take here. And to be honest, 2 or 3 tempos in this endgame doesn't really matter. What is not going to change is this terrible structure, right? So yeah, this e5 is just really bad, and that's why the best move here is to play knight f3. Now we are gonna take on d4, and after e4 we simply play b6, bishop b7, short castle, rook c8, and all of our pieces develop through really natural squares, and it's very easy to play this for black, right? So let's go back. Yeah, to be honest, there is not so much more you need to know about bishop d2. We are done with bishop d2. Now we jump into the next line. We're gonna talk about g3, which is actually a much more serious secondary line. And after g3, there is many possible lines here for black. I even played myself in some different ways here, but I really like the line I'm going to recommend. So we are gonna play castle, then bishop g2. Then we're gonna take on c3. It's also possible to play d5, and it's completely fine. But I like to take on c3 because, in general, I believe that this unbalanced position will give us better chances to play for a win. And I really believe it's easier to play than with black than it is with white. And then we play, as you already know, we took here. White taking with a pawn. How do we play? d5 or d6? You already know this. We play with d6. So after d6, white should somehow complete development, right? So, well, knight f3 is the most natural way, but e4 is also an option, trying to play knight e2, but it's not so good, to be honest. And just play e5, knight e2. And now there is a problem of having the bishop on g2, and is that this guy is less defended, right? So now after b6, we are getting some pressure on c4, and the position is very nice for us. Okay, that's why knight f3 is the best move. And now my recommendation will be to start here with knight to c6. So after knight c6, we want to eventually play with e5, right? And, well, short castle is the main move here, but there was a very funny idea that Fabi tried here with the white pieces, which is bishop g5. And the idea of bishop g5 is that if we play h6, then white wants to play bishop h4, and they want to wait for g5 to even sacrifice the knight, and then white gets a lot of counterplay, right? So the point here will be to play e5. We don't want to play h6 so early, because if we play h6 so early, sometimes also white will be able to play some g4 random idea trying to attack. So we're going to keep the pawn on h7 for now. We don't really have any hurry to play h6. We can just do it later. So this is actually how the game Caruana Kamer went, and Caruana played h3 here, and then Kamer played bishop f5, and I actually believe this is a very decent and easy solution for the line. Then g4 and bishop e4. So now you understand better why we wanted to keep this pawn here, because otherwise some g5 might actually come. It can be dangerous. And after short castle, Kamer played king h8 in the game, which actually wasn't a good move. And Caruana played e3, but after knight e1, the position was really good for white. I mean, after e3 was also kind of good, but knight e1 was even stronger. So my recommendation here will be to play h6, bishop h4, and then we'll play simply queen e7. And now we don't really need to worry so much about these g5 lines, because white's already castled. So we have this very funny idea. We can play a knight h7, and if gh6, we play g5, bishop d2, we play f5, and actually black is much better here. So yeah, g5 is not really an issue anymore, and otherwise you just keep developing the pieces, and eventually you'll play g5, and black is completely fine. We complete development. So to be honest, this line is kind of odd. People doesn't really play it anymore, or there is not really a lot of games, so it's really weird. In case of d5, you can just take here, take, and the endgame is completely fine, because these pawns again are very weak, so this is nice. And in case of short castle, now you can actually play h6, bishop h4, and rook e8. As you can see, in general, we wait for white to castle to play h6, so these h3, g4 plans are less dangerous. Now we play rook e8 here. d5 is not a move for black, for white in general, okay? I mean, white is playing here because they want to keep the position as open as possible. Closing and helping us to bring the knight to d7 doesn't really make sense, okay? So rook b1 will make sense here, and now we have a very easy plan, so we don't need to worry about this g5. Again, if you play g5, be ready, because this is gonna be dangerous, okay? So the point is, we play e4, and that's why we played rook e8, because we wanna keep this guy defended. We play e4, so now white needs to take, okay? Playing knight d2, now g5, there is just a piece up, there is no sacrifice, there is nothing, it's just losing a piece, so bishop f6, now we take with the queen, knight d2, and now queen g6. And we have a very funny, I mean, it's a complex position, but it's a position that I like. We have, again, better structure. We have good prospect also on the king side. We can try to attack with some h4, h5, h4 ideas, and a nice also positional plans like b6, bishop d7. But it's important to play rook e8 first, okay? Because if you go e4 here, then it will not be so easy to defend the pawn. I mean, you can still sacrifice it with e3, but that's not the point. You cannot play queen g6 and defend it. That's why we play rook e8 first, okay? So that being said, that's kind of all you need to know on bishop g5. And if your opponent plays castle first, then you can just go e5. So bishop g5 will simply transpose to what we just spoke about, and there is also some other ideas that white can try here. So for instance, queen c2 will be normal, just rook e8 is fine, and something like c5 will be normal, but something like e4 and d5 continue with development is good. And any other move, you can just keep developing pieces, h6, rook e8, with very solid structure, and just playing against those weaknesses in the long term. Okay, so that's good enough. I think it's a very easy line for black, and that's the reason why I chose it. The only thing you need to know, the only complex thing you need to know is that idea with bishop g5, bishop h4. But if you know how to fight it, it's completely fine for black. And to end, we are going to be talking about the last line we are talking in Nimzo-Indian, which is a3 here. And of course, there is not, it's not a secret we have to take, and b takes c3. So I know I told you that in every time we take on c3 and bc3, we play with d6. And to be honest, if you want to play d6, it's fine. It's a good move. There is no issue about it. You can play d6, you can play e5, you can play this kind of line, and it's completely fine and good for black if you want to do it. But my recommendation would be to play knight c6 here. And the reason why we do this is because we want to actually punish white for being so quick, trying to not develop pieces, trying to force us to take on c3. So the point of this line is that we want to put a lot of pressure on c4 very, very quickly. If you want to play with d6, as I said, it's completely fine, it's completely playable, there is nothing wrong about it. But in this particular order, my main recommendation will be knight c6. But again, d6 is a good move, there is nothing to worry about if you play d6. So, knight c6. f3 is the main move here for white by far, and actually kind of everyone will play f3. But I just wanted to briefly mention that playing e4 is an option. Knight e4 and queen g4. So there is more than one good solution for this, but I think this one really pissed white idea. So we play f5, take, and queen f6, takes, and we just get an endgame where this is quick, and I don't think white is trying to play e4 sacrifice, trying to complex the game just to get this boring endgame where you are just slightly worse. So white will definitely be a bit pissed if they get this position, right? So yeah, that's why people in general don't play e4. So f3 is the main move here for white, as I said. And now our idea will be to put a lot of pressure on c4. In order to do it, we'll play b6, e4, and knight a5. So there is this funny thing about this position. We don't really care if white plays e5, okay? A lot of people might be tempted to play e5 here, but it's actually not good. We can just play knight g8, and then we are putting a lot of pressure by playing d6 in this pawn, and knight can just be developed through e7, so everything is completely fine still for black. And actually this is already a slight advantage for black. I will show you just a couple of lines so you understand how this can develop. So something like f4, play knight e7, knight f3, bishop a6, knight e2, d6. As you can see, we have very easy development. White is doing weird things with their pieces, and the space is actually more a weakness than an advantage in this position. Something like bishop d3, bishop a6, queen e2, and now I wanted to show you this nice tactical trick that there is sometimes in this kind of situation. So we play c5, and Okay, if d5, this is the tactical trick, we can take because we have this check, and then c4 is hanging. And okay, white tries to defend, something like bishop e3, we can just take, knight 7, rook c8, eventually knight f5, and the position is again slightly better for black. So this is really good for us. Some more options. Bishop g5. So bishop g5, of course, want to kind of play e5 at some point. So I like to play h6 here because, I mean, we are not castle, so we don't really need to worry about any g4, g5, or anything like that. So bishop h4 is the idea, and now we can just play with d6, so we keep more control of the center. Now white should try to keep developing the pieces, so bishop d3 is the main move here for white. Now, again, there is more than one good solution. Queen d7, for instance, is a very interesting move to continue with bishop a6, but I personally like g5, more concrete, bishop f2, and bishop a6. With a good development, good position. There was a game here, Carson Pichot, there was Guigi, Lenier Dominguez. There is a lot of high-level games in this position, and black is completely fine. Only thing you need to know, by the way, is h4. In general, you want to play rook g8. You don't want to take here or play g4. And later, you just go for c5, and then you castle long. So this is good. And also, as I said, queen d7 is also a good line, just to play bishop a6 or bishop b7, followed by long castle. Also, a very nice line for black. Anyway, to be honest, bishop d3 is the main move here for white. Now you're going to play bishop a6 very quickly, trying to put pressure on c4. So queen a4 is kind of random. The queen is not really well placed here. And now we can play rook c8, trying to push c5 later, which is a very, very good position for black. And in case of queen e2, there is different good solutions for this. In general, this is an idea you should consider, to take the bishop. White is not going to be happy without that bishop, but we don't really need to even hurry about that. So I actually like c5. So if d5, then we can play d6, and we have this very nice idea of playing with knight d7 and eventually trying to jump here. And again, our king will always go to the long castle. King is much safer on the long castle than in the short castle. Long castle is completely closed. If you go to short castle, then you'll have to be ready for some f4, knight f3, bishop g5, whatever random attack white will try. If you castle long, there is no attack. So in general, you do this. And if bishop e3, again, you just go d6, something like knight h3, you go queen c7, you're putting pressure here, you can continue with d5, ideas with long castle, or even short castle here is also possible, and black is completely fine. So a3 is a fighting line. I mean, it's not a terrible line or anything. It's a good line for white if you want to find like a huge fight, but you are also risking a lot positionally. And I personally prefer black in these kind of positions, but of course it's a matter of style if you prefer the line more or maybe a little less. So I hope you enjoyed this chapter. I know we talk about so many secondary lines and the chapter is kind of long, but as you can see, if you understand the concepts, the moves that we do in general are very similar and very easy moves. It's not like we need to remember super long random lines. It's more like a positional idea, concepts, and so on. So that's one of the main reasons I really love the Nimzo-Indian, and one of the reasons I think the Nimzo-Indian is probably the best opening you can play with the black pieces if you are allowed to do it. And that's why every elite player plays it, because it's so nice, it's so easy, and it's so I mean, you can also play for a win with it without learning so much theory, and that's why everyone plays it. So I hope you enjoyed this, and see you in the next chapter.
Access ChessEnigma's free sample lessons. Enjoy videos, interactive exercises, and a digital board to practice anywhere on any device. Sign up for free and start improving your chess from home today.